Mullin, sir, sorry, I know you lost a very good friend. I think that's where we start. There are so many people, I think, who are having to work through this. It is this national moment of tragedy, and yet you're also dealing with the loss of a dear friend.
Yeah, I've dealt with a lot of death in my life, unfortunately, but this one hurts, and it hurts
differently.
It is because a lot of the other deaths was you inherently accept the risk of death in some
somebody
atmosphere.
who goes overseas as a soldier or in the intelligence services.
But when you have somebody like Charlie, who was it was senseless. There was no point in it. I mean, what was the point? Because you disagreed with him? Because anybody that said he was hateful, anyone that said that that he spreaded hate speech, you're going, okay, here's the guy that changed the way we look at politics. He went straight into liberal campuses, sat down, and gave the opposing view and opponents the opportunity to be heard. And he would debate with them as long as they weren't being ridiculous. I mean, sometimes he would have to say, you'll leave, but it was never in a condescending way. He always spoke from a biblical perspective, from his Christian values, because he claimed and professed to be a Christian, and he lived it every day in his life. And if he needed to debate you on the political view, you better come packing, because the guy knows exactly what he's talking about. And you want to silence that? You want to rob his children from having a dad? You want to rob Erica from having the love of her life? You're wanting to take somebody away because you disagree with his voice, but he was a threat to you? Why? He wasn't a lawmaker. He wasn't an elected official. What was so threatening about Charlie Kirk that you felt like you wanted to kill him? And then you see, and I'm not saying everybody, but you see so many horrific individuals that are out there on social media praising it, and it's disgusting.
It's not. I say this respectfully. I don't need to tell you this, but it's not just social media. We've had members of Congress. I'm thinking about Ilhan Omar.
Yeah.
How does that just? You work together. You're in the same building together. Mm-hmm. How does it make you feel?
I've put people in my life that can be relative, and she's not one of them.
Okay.
So I don't let her control my feelings.
Fair enough. What has it been like, and I think this is important for the country to understand what Kelly said. You work in the White House, you work in the United States Senate, you're a U.S. Senator, you are selected by Americans to deal with really heavy things, but you're also human beings.
Yeah.
What has it been like trying to work, and for your friends, I know a lot of in the White House, not just the president, but the senior staff, having to work through the loss of someone who is so close?
It's hard, but the line of work we have in front of us and the line of work we signed up to do, it doesn't stop. I mean, you knew Charlie. Every media outlet knew Charlie. And if you met him once, you liked him. You did. And for anybody that says any different, they didn't know Charlie, because he loved the Lord, and he loved you, and he showed in everything he did. He was a very compassionate guy, but very passionate at the same time. And so all of us are having to go through it. But as I was talking to a person yesterday evening, and was having to deal with the ceremonies, because today's 9/11 on top of that, and for a lot of us, that's a pretty hard day. And they were talking about skipping some of the ceremonies and skipping some of the meetings and just rearranging the day. And I said, Charlie wouldn't do that. None of us would do that, because life still continues. You just got to work with a hole in your heart. But at the same time, whatever we're dealing with doesn't even compare what Erica and her 2 kids are dealing with today. Erica woke up by herself today. Their 2 kids are waking up with a house that doesn't have a father in it anymore. I mean, whatever we're dealing with, that doesn't even compare to what that family is dealing with. And I can't even imagine it. I mean, I talked to some people that's part of Charlie's company today, and we were just talking about, like, how can we help? What can we do here? And the first thing that that they said is that Erica had already talked to him today and said, "Listen, everything's going to keep going. We got to keep saying, we got to keep moving forward. We can't allow Charlie's voice to be silenced." So now she's having to be the head of the household and the mother. At the same time, she's grieving. So whatever we're dealing with, man, I can walk through fire if she can get through the day.
I've known you for a long time.
Yeah.
I've known you since you've been a congressman, a freshman congressman, I think.
Yeah, probably.
I've never seen you like this.
Yeah.
I've never seen you shook.
Yeah, and like I said, it's so senseless. I mean, it's senseless. It's absolutely senseless. It's hard to say it any other way. Like I mean, even my wife was saying, Mark Wayne, I mean, you process death like you're almost not human, but this one hurts, and I hurt for them. I hurt for her, Charlie's family. I really do. I hurt for them. Like I feel the pain.
I hear you. I think there's a lot of people though who feel like we hurt for you. You know, and you heard for a friend who's lost a friend, and a dear friend in your case. We saw the video, and we're going to play it again. As long as I've covered politics, everything I know about politics, I've never seen the Vice President of the United States leave the day after a death, fly somewhere to escort the casket and the widow back home, ever. Not after all sorts of horrific moments in American history. What was it about Charlie that at 31 years old, which meant he started much younger, has such deep respect of the President of the United States, the Vice President of the United States, their wives, the senior staff of the White House? How do we explain that?
You never met a more real, honest person than Charlie. I mean, he was constantly talking about the Lord. He was constantly talking about his faith. He was constantly talking about the responsibility of a husband. He's constantly talking about the responsibility of a father. He was constantly talking about the Lord Jesus Christ. He just was a positive influence on you. And at 31 years old, the influence and the favor he found on people was moving. It wasn't based on age. It was based on his true caring love for everybody he came in contact with. And people knew that. They could trust what he was saying, and he was passionate about it. My mom sent me a text today, which my mom doesn't hardly ever text, and she sent me a text. She said, Mark Wayne, she said, you know Charlie in his strong faith. At 31 years old, his spirit must have known he had a short time to accomplish what he had to get accomplished, and he ran the whole time. And he did. Charlie ran the whole time.
Do you think he realized, I know he talked about the threats against him. Do you think he realized it, understood it? Did his wife know it and just not care because of how he thought what he was doing was important?
We had this conversation, and he said, I'm not going to allow fear to dictate my life. I'm not saying word for word. I'm just paraphrasing the way I interpret it, right? I'm not going to allow fear to dictate my life. I believe that I have an ability and the obligation to spread the message that the Lord has put on my heart. And this message is to take it to campuses, to take it to villages, to take it to households. And it's my duty. And I'm not going to allow fear or the worry of what someone else's actions are to tame me. And now I'm paraphrasing those words, but that's what he said. And I'll never forget it, because I feel the same way. I'm like, fear doesn't control me. Fear isn't going to dictate my decision on what my day becomes. But he said it so boldly, and he used his faith as a reason why he has to continue to move forward. No one wants to die. No one's expecting to die, but he most definitely wasn't afraid of what could possibly be the outcome, because he was so convicted of what he felt like he was called to do. And there is no question he was called to do it. The impact he made at only 31 years of age, as you said, the Vice President of the United States canceled his day, flew Air Force Two to Utah, helped carry his casket to the plane, and flew his family back to Arizona. That's the type of impact. The President of the United States made an address to the American people from the Oval Office about Charlie Kirk at the age of 31. You think of the impact. Just 18 years, or just 12 years ago, at the age of 18, was the first time anybody ever seen him on news, and that was
I remember
his TV debut was on Fox and Friends.
I remember meeting him when I worked at Fox News, and it was so apparent instantly that you were meeting somebody who was quantitatively and qualitatively different than almost anyone you had ever met in your life.
That's right.
And I think the part of the reason that people respected him so much on both sides, as you pointed out, was you couldn't help but like him when you met him. Have you processed this yet? And I say this as we're just about to get this press conference underway. Kash Patel, director of the FBI, is about to brief the country about the assassination of your good friend. Have you processed it yet?
No. I don't. I mean, yes, no. It seems surreal, but it's real. Death is final. But Charlie, if you turn on your social media, I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's on X or it's on Truth Social or if it's on Facebook or Instagram. It's all Charlie Kirk right now, which is only
part of that's the algorithms, but yes.
Of course it is. But you still go. Someone tried to silence him, and all they did is make him a martyr.
Someone said today that this has created 1,000 Charlie Kirks. There is a whole cadre of young conservatives who now are dedicated. Now will dedicate their lives to this.
I think it's changed Gen Z. I really do believe that, because someone that was trying to destroy it and had this sick mind of what they thought the outcome was going to be, and that they were going to be the martyr, has made a martyr, and people are turned off by it. And Gen Z at these campuses, which he turned around for the most part, and when he first started going to these campuses, Leland, people were just screaming and yelling. He was by himself.
And now it arrived as a rock star.
Yeah, and now people, thousands of people would show up being Charlie Kirk fans, and they weren't afraid to take that stand on their campus. That voice isn't going to be silenced. All you did was light a fire underneath. I think it was General or Admiral, if I'm pronouncing his name, Yamamoto of the Japan fleet, Yamamoto, that said, "I fear all we've done is awoken a sleeping giant." Yeah.
After that was Yamamoto after Pearl Harbor.
Yeah, after Pearl Harbor.
And I said last night, and people gave me a hard time for that. We're going to see if we get a note on how long this press conference is coming. That was the 2-minute warning, so we'll stay with this. I compared what we are going through right now to 1968 and to the assassination of Martin Luther King. Not because King and Kirk are. You think it's a fair comparison?
I heard that comparison early date, and I do believe that, because you had two non-elected officials that was taking a political stand, and both their voices were silenced or tried to be silenced because of someone's opposing view.
I think also because Martin Luther King spoke for part of the population that felt marginalized, was marginalized, had been beaten down and kept down. And I think Charlie spoke to a group of young male conservatives and young female conservatives who felt as though they had been disenfranchised and beaten down and kept down, and he gave them a voice and he championed them.
I would go even one step farther, and this isn't trying to be controversial, I'm just being honest. He also wasn't ashamed of his Christian beliefs. And those that walked on the campus, which had been silent, saying that that's hateful speech because you're speaking your faith, you're speaking your love of Christ, and you believe in the biblical principles with traditional values, that somehow that was hateful to other people. That was a bold stance that people took refuge in.
All right, Senator, we'll listen in now to the FBI press conference in Utah.